pretty interesting article here by Adam Serwer at The Atlantic. Title, because it's a little bit of it's blocked by my video here, but the Capitol rioters weren't low class. They were business owners, CEOs, state legislators, police officers, active and retired service members, real estate brokers, stay-at-home dads, and I assume some yes, there was definitely Proud Boys there. There was Nazis, neo-Nazis, all kinds of various groups associated with, white supremacy. Definitely some Proud Boys for sure. The mob that breached the Capitol last week at President Donald Trump's exhortation hoped to overturn the results of the 2020 election was full of what you might call respectable people. They left dozens of Capitol police officers injured, screamed, "Hang Mike Pence," threatened to murder House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and set up gallows outside the building. Some were extremists using the crowd as cover, but as federal authorities issue indictments, a striking number of those they name appear to be regular Americans. There's nothing surprising about that. Although any crowd that size is bound to include people who are struggling financially, no one should be shocked to see the middle class is so well represented among the mob. I think, there probably were some more working class, quote unquote, working class people, but I think a lot of them were of the kind of petty bourgeoisie, small business owners, people with the means and the time to be able to go to the Capitol for a couple of days, rent or get a hotel, get a rental car, pay for the airfare, all of that stuff. Most working folks, especially right now, don't have that class or economic advantage or privilege to be able to do that. It's like I think a lot of these folks were, petty bourgeoisie types. The notion that political violence simply emerges out of economic desperation rather than ideology is comforting, but it's false. Throughout American history, political violence has been guided, initiated, and perpetrated, I should say, by respectable people from educated middle and upper class backgrounds. The belief that only impoverished people engage in political violence, particularly right-wing political violence, is a misconception often cultivated by the very elites who benefit from that violence. The members of the mob that attacked the Capitol and beat a police officer to death last week were not desperate. They were there because they believed they had been unjustly stripped of their enviable right to rule. They believed that not only because of the third-generation real estate tycoon who incited them, Donald Trump, but also because of the wealthy Ivy Leaguers who encouraged them to think the election had been stolen. He's referring to people like, Josh Hawley and Tom Cotton. There's ample precedent for this. When the Ku Klux Klan formed during Reconstruction, according to the historian Eric Foner, its leadership included planters, merchants, lawyers, and even ministers. Most respectable citizens are engaged in it, reported a Georgia Freedmen's Bureau agent. If there can be any respectability about such people, respectable people can be very dangerous. President Ulysses S. Grant responded to the outrages of the KKK in the Reconstruction South by sending the military to crush the Klan and the newly formed Department of Justice to prosecute it. For a time, the effort was successful. Nevertheless, paramilitary wings of the Democratic Party, determined to disenfranchise black voters and restore white supremacy, reconstituted themselves. Only this time they left the masks off, so everyone could see how respectable they were. Operating openly, they were far more successful than they had been while clad in their goofy costumes and masks, taking on the names such as the White League and the Red Shirts. They terrorized, murdered, and intimidated black voters and their white Republican allies in order to excise them from the polity and restore black people to a state of near slavery. In New Orleans, carpenters, grocers, and tinsmiths belonged to the White League, as did laborers and stevedores, not sure what that is, according to the historian Justin Nystrom. But more common were professional men from Factors Row, clerks, accountants, sugar and cotton factors, weighers and lawyers. In South Carolina, a leader of the Redshirts, Benjamin Tillman, was born into a wealthy slave-owning family. His men were made up of substantial landowners already prominent in the local agriculture societies, granges, and conservative political hubs. The historian Stephen Hahn wrote, "The white supremacist militants who massacred black people and overthrew the government of Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898 were described as reputable white citizens in contemporary accounts." The elite leaders of the white supremacist orgs, however, were content to cultivate the perception that the outrages condemned by northern newspapers were the work of lower-class white men, which only increased the urgency of their political project, restoring the rule of the white elite so that the alleged passions of the white lower class could be restrained, and the supposed corruption of black men and the white allies could be punished. In truth, however, as black men and white laborers formed allies, such as the readjusters in Virginia, that the white supremacists were most effectively resisted. They used the language of the mob to distance themselves from the very acts of violence they promoted. The historian Stephen Kantrowitz wrote in his biography of Tillman, claiming that these assaults were carried about by disreputable white men, mobs, that is, from which only respectable white men could protect black Southerners. The red shirts Tillman insisted were generally of a class of people who do not commit outrages of that sort, as U.S. Senator Tillman would brag of having shot Negroes in stuffed ballot boxes. After Republicans retreated from Reconstruction, making clear that they would neither defend the rights of black people nor prevent Democrats from violating them, the respectable men who had overthrown the recon governments were far more open about their deeds. They became mayors, governors, congressmen, and senators. They elected monuments to the Confederate Army and its valor in defending the institution of human bondage, both to celebrate their accomplishments and dissuade black Southerners from ever again contemplating political equality with white people. They told the world that what they had done was heroism rather than terrorism, and in the name of reconciliation and unity, the North acquiesced. By 1909, a decade after the massacre in Wilmington, North Carolina, inspired a wave of new Jim Crow legislation across the South. Republican President William Howard Taft praised Democrats for having excluded an ignorant, irresponsible element, that is, black voters, from the polity. The respectable people were in charge again. Of course, their success in seizing power and disenfranchising their political rivals that allowed them to maintain their respectability. Had they failed, had the South's brief experiment in multiracial democracy succeeded, they would have been seen as the bandits, assassins, and terrorists that they were. Impunity is what makes murder and terrorism respectable. After all, which definitely goes to the U.S. empire. After all, these deeds were actually crimes. They would have been punished. Watching the mob ransack the Capitol last week, Trump is reported to have been initially enthusiastic about the riot, but later disgusted by what he considered the low-class spectacle of people in ragtag costumes rummaging through the Capitol. Now we know the truth. They weren't low-class. They were respectable. They almost always are. Pretty interesting perspective and take here. I definitely would love to hear yours about the class element of these attempted insurrectionist, coupists, domestic terrorists, however you'd like to. CEO, let's see who that was. One of these people. Internet's being a little slow, actually. CEO arrested for breaching U.S. Capitol. Okay, there's some receipts for you. I wonder what did the CEO of? The CEO of a Chicago company said he was arrested for breaching the Capitol. Brad Ruxdale, CEO of the marketing technology firm Canisi, apologized for what he called a moment of extremely poor judgment. Okay, so there's the CEO. We'll just click on a couple more of these. But yeah, CEO from Chicago, and then the person that was in Nancy Pelosi's office, also some type of small business owner. They got one of those PPP or PPE loans, state legislatures. And then, yeah, lots of off-duty police officers from all around the U.S. are being investigated right now for their roles. And I don't consider cops to be part of the working class. I'm sorry. Derek Evans, a West Virginia legislator who stormed the Capitol, has resigned. There you go. Assuming that's him there. Oh shit. So yeah, there he is. Him. We got a state legislator, CEO, real estate brokers. Let's see, is this the person? No, it looks like maybe Utah. Yeah, New York business owner, Utica business owner arrested in Capitol riot. They treated us like animals. They treated you with like fucking kid gloves. Have you seen how police treat black and brown people, or people protesting in solidarity with them during the Black Lives Matter movement? Those are the people they treated like animals. They treated you with fucking kid gloves. Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ. Okay, where's this? Okay, where is it? Among them, Leroy Kaufman. Let's see. Bunch of guns. Came to nation's capital armed for civil war. Oh, Christ. Okay, where's this other thing at? Let's see. QAnon. Yeah, a lot of QAnon folks there. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Deep state conspiracy to target children. QAnon shaman. Oh, Jesus. It's a long fucking article. Here you go. Army commanders at Fort Bragg in North Carolina are investigating Captain Emily Rainey's involvement in the Wednesday rally. Lots and lots of... There you go. Retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Larry Rendell. All kinds of good folks. Like the video, subscribe for more content. Peace.